I've gone a little bit stadium mad on this channel over the last month or so. We've had a then and now video on the first 7 World Cup final stadiums, a look at 7 fascinating abandoned stadiums, and 7, or 14 I guess, of the stadiums located closest together from across the globe. I also did a video on 7 tiny football clubs with enormous stadiums, and the somewhat inevitable top comment on that video was a request for the opposite. That is to say, 7 much larger clubs with stadiums probably not big enough. I should point out, these aren't all super clubs playing in large but not enormous stadiums, and neither are the 7 mid-sized clubs playing out of garden sheds. It's a mixture of the two. There are many more that I could have mentioned, but I'll give quick honourable mentions to Everton and Eibar. Everton's Goodison Park isn't tiny, with a capacity of over 39,000, but the Toffees could fill a bigger one, and there is a general feel on Merseyside that the club needs to update its infrastructure in order to push on the pitch. Eibar don't actually sell out their stadium every week, hence why they missed out, but a 7,000 capacity stadium for a club that finished 12th in La Liga is just absurd, so they deserve an honourable mention. I'd just quickly like to add that I've always recorded upstairs in my house rather than downstairs, since I figured the audio wasn't very good at my desk, but no one seemed to notice for my Q&A. Just let me know in the comments if you think the audio is better, worse, or the same on these videos as it has been previously, and I'll follow your suggestions. Here are my 7 football clubs who need bigger stadiums. Bayer Leverkusen. Fan culture is alive and well in Germany, and the Bundesliga has the highest average attendance figures of any league in world football, and is second only to the NFL when it comes to world sport. The average gate of a match in Germany's top flight is over 44,000, but one club who falls significantly below that average are Bayer Leverkusen. That's not due to a lack of appetite for football in the region, but simply a result of the Bay Arena having a maximum capacity of just 30,210. That isn't tiny by any means, but it is roughly the same size as Hoffenheim, who are actually a village team, and it is smaller than the likes of Mainz and 5 stadiums in the Bundesliga too. What's more, Leverkusen are a side with ambitions to challenge the established top brass of the German game, having finished 4th last season, meaning they're in this season's Champions League. 5-time Bundesliga runners-up since 1996 and Champions League finalists in 2002, Leverkusen are an established Bundesliga side who haven't been relegated since the 1970s. The Bay Arena has had multiple renovations and expansions over the years, having had an original capacity of 20,000, but the city and club decided against expanding it to over 40,000 in order to host games for the 2006 World Cup. The city of Leverkusen isn't enormous, but one suspects the appetite is there for a 40,000 seater venue now. AFC Bournemouth. Whilst Eibar, the club with the smallest stadium in La Liga, miss out on this 7, the club with the smallest stadium in the Premier League do not. That is because Bournemouth's Dean Court, or the Vitality Stadium for sponsorship reasons, is actually maxed out in terms of capacity on a regular basis. Dean Court has a maximum capacity of 11,329, which is almost half the second smallest stadium in the division. It is smaller than 23 of the 24 stadiums in the Championship, 15 of the 24 stadiums in League 1, 6 of the 24 in League 2, and even a couple of non-league grounds. There's a good reason for all that, and that is because Bournemouth have historically lingered in the 3rd and 4th tiers of English football. Dean Court originally opened in 1910, but the ground was completely rebuilt, becoming essentially a new stadium in 2001. Bournemouth were struggling in what is now League 1 at the time, and the 3-sided venue reopened with a capacity of 9,600. The Cherries have of course made a rapid ascent through the divisions under Eddie Howe, and a 4th stand taking the capacity up to 11,329 was added following promotion to the Championship. Demand at the stadium still far outweighs capacity, and following failed negotiations attempting to buy the stadium so they could renovate or rebuild it again, the club are now reportedly looking for a new site in which to build a larger home for themselves. AFC Wimbledon. I ought to add a little side note to AFC Wimbledon, who come in 5th in this 7, and that is to point out that the club will actually be moving stadiums in the imminent future. Nevertheless, right now the League 1 side play at Kingsmeadow in Norbiton, which has a capacity of fewer than 5,000, with just 2,265 seats. That means Wimbledon have the smallest stadium not just in League 1, but actually in the entire Football League. That's particularly troublesome for the club since they actually enjoy pretty decent support. No stadium in League 1 has a high percentage of their capacity occupied in terms of average attendance, with the Dons averaging over 4,300 fans at home games, with the away end not always sold out. AFC Wimbledon have been playing at Kingsmeadow since their formation as a Phoenix club in 2002, but they plan on returning to a rebuilt Plough Lane for 2020-21. New Plough Lane will occupy the site of the old Plough Lane, which had a capacity of almost 16,000. The new ground will only be able to accommodate 9,000 fans initially, with one permanent stand housing 4,500 fans and 3 temporary ones accommodating the other half. The ambitious project will see Wimbledon return to their spiritual home in a ground more fitting of their league standing, and it will also have the potential to be expanded well beyond the initial 9,000 capacity. Famalicão. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I hate to appear overly reactionary on this channel, and this inclusion could be perceived as being just that. For those of you who don't know, Famalicão are a relatively small Portuguese football club located in the district of Braga. Having won promotion from the Liga Pro last season, they have taken the Portuguese Primeira Liga by storm in their first top flight campaign since 1994. They have won 7 of their first 9 games, losing only once, a record which puts them 3rd in the Primeira Liga table, level on points with Porto and 8 points ahead of Sporting. Famalicão's fine form means that the club is playing in front of packed out crowds every week, but that would be a little more impressive if their stadium didn't only hold 5,307 spectators. There are actually a fair few small stadia in the Primeira Liga. Portugal is a country of just 10 million people after all, but Famalicão stand out as the club with far more demand than their Estádio Municipal 22 de Junho can accommodate. The stadium opened in 1952 and is virtually untouched since its opening game. Famalicão are now owned by the Quantum Pacific Group though, who own 32% of Atletico Madrid, and expansion works are planned for early 2020. Following the renovations, Famalicão's ground is expected to see a rise in capacity to around 7,000, which hardly makes it a mega stadium, but is a little more suitable. Chelsea. Chelsea FC have been looking to move into a new stadium for as long as I can remember, and indeed long before I was born. Few clubs are as tied to their homes as Chelsea are to Stamford Bridge for a couple of reasons. The primary one perhaps is the fact that most clubs are founded and then look for somewhere to play. Chelsea, meanwhile, was founded due to Stamford Bridge and so that the stadium would have a permanent occupant. The team came close to actually being called Stamford Bridge FC. Chelsea have played at Stamford Bridge ever since their formation in 1905, but nonetheless, in the 1970s, it was decided that a new modern 50,000-seater stadium was required for the ambitious West Londoners. The renovations would almost bankrupt the club and ended up almost costing them a stadium at all when Stamford Bridge had to be sold to developers to avoid the club's financial collapse. The main road and railway lines that surround the stadium make renovations and expansion incredibly difficult, and Roman Abramovich began seriously searching for an alternative site to build a new ground around the turn of the decade. Earls Court Exhibition Centre, Battersea Power Station and the Chelsea Barracks were all cited as possible locations, and Chelsea lost a bidding war for Battersea Power Station in 2012. In late 2016, early 2017, plans returned to redeveloping the bridge, but these were put on hold indefinitely in early 2018, supposedly due to the unfavourable investment climate. Roman Abramovich's permanent residence is now in Israel, with the Russian billionaire seemingly having taken a slight step back from the club, and any hopes of a new move for Chelsea don't seem imminent. Meanwhile, their London rivals Arsenal and Tottenham have glittering state-of-the-art 60,000-seater homes. Viktoria Plzen. Viktoria Plzen are one of those teams whose name crops up in the Champions League and Europa League most seasons, typically going out of both competitions pretty early on, and then you forget about them for the next 12 months. Well, we're not forgetting about them any longer, as HITC Sevens boldly declares, Viktoria Plzen, you deserve a bigger ground. Founded in 1911, Plzen are the 3rd most successful club in the Czech Republic, trailing only Sparta and Slavia Prague. They have been playing at the Dusan Arena since 1953, with the ground having seen renovations in both 2003 and 2011. The Dusan Arena has a current capacity of 11,700, making it only the 6th largest stadium in the Czech First League. That is despite the fact that in 5 of the last 9 seasons, Plzen have won the Czech First League title, only finishing outside of the top 2 once, back in 2012. The Dusan Arena does have some pretty quirky features, such as the dugouts, which are made to look like beer cans for sponsorship reasons, and it is actually a very pretty little stadium. However, Plzen are a big club by Czech standards. They could often get more than 11,700 fans for a big game or a European night, and they really ought to expand it. Juventus. There has long been a stadium problem in Italy, with a string of clubs playing once great but now crumbling homes. Juventus, who are the biggest and most successful club in Italy, took the decision to move into a modern stadium faster than most. Juve played at the 69,000 capacity Stadio dell'Alpi from 1990 to 2006, and then the 30,000 capacity Stadio Olimpico from 2006 to 2011. It was in 2011 that Juventus moved into their new home, the Juventus Stadium, now known as the Allianz Stadium, which was built on the site of the Stadio dell'Alpi. Juve chose not to replicate the 70,000-seater Della Alpi with their new ground, having averaged just 36,000 fans a game during their 16 years there, and instead built a much smaller venue with a capacity of just 41,000. The thinking was actually pretty simple. There are lots of crumbling concrete bowls with athletics tracks around them in Italy that are half full, if that, most weekends. Juve wanted a packed-out, more modern stadium with fans close to the pitch, something more akin to your average Bundesliga ground. It was a smart idea, and to a large extent, it has worked. The Della Alpi wasn't a joyous venue to visit, and the Allianz Stadium is much more welcoming. It is impossible not to look at Juventus, a club believed to have 80 million supporters around the globe, and not feel as though 41,000 is too small for a club of that size though. Juve have dominated the last decade of Italian football, they've reached multiple Champions League finals, and they have Cristiano Ronaldo on their books, yet their stadium is smaller than Sunderland's in the third tier of English football. It just seems a bit wrong. Juve, we like what you've done, but stop charging €160 a ticket, make it a bit bigger, and pack the place out every game. That's it for today's 7. Thanks for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and obviously make sure you're subscribed to HITC Sevens. Also, if you're watching on mobile, just try tapping your screen now. Apparently that is sometimes required to bring up our little subscribe button and a couple of other videos that YouTube thinks you might enjoy.